How's it going, everybody? This is Dhammapada Chapter 3. This is my translation of the Dhammapada. My translation is for sale on Amazon. Vincent Ferra, Dhammapada. You can see here, this is the beginning of the third chapter here, the mind. I have a Rorschach with the brain, the two pictures. Let's dive right in. Verse 29. Present among the absent-minded, awake amidst the sleepers, the wise advance like a swift horse leaving behind the jade. So my translation is a multiple translation. So it allows you to read both translations. It is a comparative reasoning translation, and I'm the only one who has comparative reasoning translations. So I give 2 verses, sometimes up to even 5 verses for each sutra. 29-second translation. Mindful amongst the careless, vigilant amongst the drowsy, wise beings advance like fast horses leaving behind heavy cargo. Verse 30. Through mindfulness, Indra became leader of the gods. Mindfulness is always praised. Negligence is always blamed. Second translation. By being heedful and restrained, Bhagavan rose the Lord of the gods. People praise restraint and heedfulness. Absent-mindedness is never or is always blamed. So they say if you just practice mindfulness, you're going to move fast on your spiritual path. If you're not mindful, you're going to get people will get upset with you. It's bad karma. Verse 31. A man who delights in mindfulness and sees danger and negligence advances like fire burning all fetters, small and large. Second translation. A leader who enjoys being cautious and is wary of mindlessness advances like a fire, burning all fetters, great and minuscule. So the Buddha says you're supposed to know the lines, like word for word, but you're also supposed to embody their essence. So that's why we repeat these sutras until we fully embody and attain full nirvana, full liberation of the soul. So this is verse 32. A man who delights in mindfulness and sees danger and negligence will not regress. He is close to ultimate happiness, nirvana. A leader who enjoys being cautious and is wary of mindlessness is incapable of falling backwards and stands on the verge of unbinding. So here in the sutras, the Yoga Sutras, it says backstepping is one of the hindrances to enlightenment. So here again in the Dhammapada, the Buddha says it. So once you gain spiritual attainment, if you're not mindful, you lose it. Verse 33. The mind is fickle and unsteady. It is difficult to control and restrain. Here. A wise man trains his mind to be upright and straightforward, just as a fletcher straightens the arrow. Second translation. Just as a fletcher straightens an arrow shaft, a wise being makes his excitable and wavering thoughts, which are difficult to guard and hold back, straight. So this, in my practice, I've become attached to someone, and because of that, caused me unhappiness or worry. So to catch your mind and make it straight before it falls into a point of worry. Verse 34. When the mind is taken out of the central world, it quivers like a fish taken from its watery home and thrown on the dry ground. So you have a lot of people with drug addiction. If somebody tries to quit smoking or somebody's addicted to alcohol, if you just take it from them, they go into convulsions or they get bad moods or they go through physical pain. So the mind is addicted to even things like television, food, pleasure, good smells, good hearing. So when you take the mind out of the central world and bring it back into the soul or bring it back inwards or just cut it off from samsara, it goes through withdrawals. Second translation. Just as a fish flips and flaps about when pulled out of its watery home and cast on the dry ground, so does the mind tremble with craving and lust when one loses his equilibrium. Therefore, you should abandon the realm of craving and pleasure. So, just liking something, the Tao Te Ching says, once something becomes beautiful, something else becomes ugly. So we're always chasing the beautiful, and we are avoiding pain. So when you abandon craving and pleasure, then there's no more cause for you to go back into samsara. 35. The mind is flighty and difficult to control. It is constantly seizing whatever it craves. The highest contentment comes from taming the mind, because a stable mind brings happiness. Second translation. I love these verses. They're so beautiful. It is wonderful to subdue the mind. The mind is airy, rushing wherever it pleases, grasping whatever it desires. So if you pay attention to the mind, you'll start to see that it goes towards the desires, it goes towards the pleasant, it goes towards what it wants. To hold it back is, I don't want to say challenging, because I don't want to tell you it's challenging, because you could do it right now. But for most people, it takes many years of meditation. 36. The mind is subtle and difficult to see. It moves and lands wherever it pleases. A wise man guards his mind, and by guarding his mind, abides in happiness. Second translation here. A discerning man guards his thoughts. Thoughts are swift and subtle. They arise and land wherever they want. Thoughts well guarded bring ease. So it's not so much what happens, it's what you think about it. Like something happens and you think it's so terrible, but if you pay attention to it, don't come attached to it and let it go, it's just a temporary thing that's happening. This is where mindfulness of the present moment and the jhana states come in. So the jhana states are the higher level of concentration. And in order to maintain nirvana, you have to attain the jhana states and then the ultimate state, nirvana. But in the Yoga Sutras, it's samadhi, the higher states of consciousness. But when you go through a period of intense emotional suffering, your girlfriend broke up with you, your boyfriend left you, you lost a loved one, a husband, a child, one of your close friends died. When you go through really deep emotional suffering, you start to see that your attachment to it. So as soon as you lose anything you like, it causes unhappiness and stress. And the stress hurts your body. Like the worry, the stress, the fear, the doubt, it causes illness and sickness in the body. So the mind, when it's free from these things, there's no stress to cause the elements in your body to get disturbed. Verse 37. The mind wanders far and moves about alone. It is formless and it dwells in the chamber of the heart. Those who subdue their longing will be freed from the shackles of craving and lust. So here, Buddha is saying that the mind resides in the heart. So most people don't really understand what the Buddha is saying about the soul. See, in Yoga Sutras, they say there is a soul. But the Buddha said that the soul is likened to a pine cone that grows into a tree from its mother tree. So the soul isn't the same from lifetime to lifetime, is what the Buddha is saying. But it's found in your heart, not in your head. The head it's an instrument. You can think with it. You can do the senses with it. But the actual mind itself is in the heart. And I think that's really important for people to know. Second verse. Residing in the chamber of the heart, the mind is without a body. It travels far and alone. One who restrains it is liberated from the bonds of Mara. So here, you have people that astral view. Like right now, if I close my eyes and I focus on the Eiffel Tower, I can see the Eiffel Tower. I can see the people around it. So people can project their minds onto things. But if you don't control it, it just goes wherever it wants. And if it goes wherever it wants, you're not in control of your own mind. Therefore, you're not in control of your happiness or of your life. Verse 38. If your mind is unsteady, if you have not heard and realized the universal truth, if your faith is wavering, you will never perfect yourself. Second translation. Wisdom never becomes perfected in one who does not have a steadfast mind. If one is ignorant of the Dharma and has not developed inner peace, His knowledge will never be perfect. Third translation for this one. He whose mind is troubled, who has never heard the teachings, whose faith wavers, his discernment will never grow to the highest level. Perfect wisdom is its own topic. What is perfect wisdom? Perfect wisdom, I think, is omniscience. I don't really know what the Buddha teaches about that, but I know in the Yoga Sutras, it's omniscience, all-knowingness, oneness with all of existence, understanding anything that comes into your reality, the highest level of wisdom. Verse 39, there is no fear for an awakened one, for him whose mind is free from lust, nor afflicted by hatred, who has gone beyond merit and demerit. There is no fear or danger as long as he stays watchful. Second translation. Once your mind is no longer tempted by craving and lust, nor poisoned with ill will, and you have risen above praise and blame, you will be free from danger as long as you remain vigilant. So when we develop our mindfulness, it has to be developed constantly. You can't not do it at all. You have to really dedicate yourself to the mindfulness. And as long as you're mindful in the present moment, you won't fall back into these states of fear and doubt. See, when you really look at the mind, you can start to see it. You emotionally, you feel it in your body. Oh, I'm in a state of anxiety and stress. Why? So when you start to think like that, you start discerning it, using the intellect to introspect it. When you introspect it, you dissect it, eventually understanding the truth of it, that there's no point in doing it. It's harmful for you. It's not good. You're not happy when you're stressed out. You're in a lower state. You're not happy when you're in pain. So there's no point in being like that. So that's why the Buddha teaches this. The Dhammapada is literally like the antivirus. These lines of information are literally the antivirus to pain and suffering. Verse 40. Realize that your body is as fragile as a clay pot, and fortify your mind like a walled castle. Cut through craving and lust with the sword of wisdom. Then embrace contentment without clinging to it. Second translation. These are good verses. These are the important verses. Knowing that this body is as fragile as a glass jar, and securing your mind like a fortified city, guard your thoughts from the temptations of Mara with the sword of discernment vigilantly. With the sword of discernment vigilantly, without becoming attached. If you lose mindfulness for 1 second, you have to pay attention to every moment. There's nothing outside the moment, or anything that exists with you in this moment. In this moment, there's peace, there's happiness, there's light, there's ease. All of that's in this moment. The mind, it wanders. It's so difficult to hold it. It's like trying to grasp air or water. Chapter 41, verse 41. Before long, this body will lie on the earth, deprived of consciousness, discarded like a decaying log. Second translation. All too soon, this body will lie on the ground, lifeless like useless scrap. So the Buddha is saying, your body's going to die. Unless you become immortal. Verse 42. Whatever damage a thief may do to his victim or a hater may do to his enemy, a wrongly directed mind will do us greater harm. In other words, we're doing harm to ourselves with our own mind, with our own thoughts. Second translation. The worst harm an enemy may do to an enemy or a hater may do to the hated is not nearly as bad as a corrupted mind can inflict on the innocent. In the first pada, he says, if you have an agitated mind, in the first pada, Buddha says, if you act with an agitated mind, suffering will follow you like footprints follow the ox. He says agitated, he's not even saying evil. He's not even saying hateful. He's saying agitated. Verse 43. Whatever good a mother may do for her son or a father for his daughter, a well-directed mind will do far greater good. Neither your mother, father, relative, or friend can benefit you more than a well-directed mind. It's almost like if you've ever had a problem and you ask your parents to help you out. having a tamed mind is the ultimate good for you. If your mind is tamed, eventually the other things stop happening. Like something bad might happen, but you don't allow it to emotionally overwhelm you, or at least you attempt not to. But in the high states, you don't. In the high states of self-control, it doesn't matter what happens. It can't affect you anymore. And the Yoga Sutra says that there's actually an energetic change in the body, the spirit, and the elements. So it's very interesting. The next chapter is going to be flowers. Thanks for joining in, guys. My translation of the Dhammapada is available on Amazon. It's the only multi-translation version of it. It's called Comparative Reasoning. It's the only comparative reasoning translation. Most people, they do comments on the bottom, or they do just the Dhammapada. I have multiple translations so that I can really capture the full essence of what the Buddha is teaching. It's available on Amazon. Vincent Ferrer Dhammapada. Please leave some questions and comments, guys.